In this edition, the student visa cap legislation flops as predicted. Will the skills in demand visa start this year? The 189 invitation round results, state sponsorship updates, and a revisit of the processing times once again. Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to Australian Immigration News, Australia's largest non-AI voiceover news channel.
Welcome to Australian Immigration News. Subscribe.
Tune in here every week to find news and our analysis of what's happening in the Australian migration world. We have been accountable to the government for the last 26 years of running a private practice here in Sydney to give honest and accurate advice. I hate to say I told you so, but the student cap fiasco has unfolded exactly as I predicted. Remember this analysis about the student cap bill in our 5th of October news edition. Will the Liberal Party then back it to override the Greens? Well, publicly they want to be seen as reducing migration numbers, but in the end they too may call it too reckless to support. This could be a tactical manoeuvre to leave the Labor Party with egg all over their faces for creating such disruption within a vital economic component of our economy. They could label it a bill that lacks integrity in terms of what it is actually trying to achieve. In reality, it was the only logical choice for the Liberal Party not to support this bill.
What we're dealing with here is a policy that is before us in the Senate at the moment. It's a dog's breakfast, let's be honest about it.
Exactly, it's a dog's breakfast. That is enough to knock the legislation back, but yet again, our immigration minister is spinning the rental crisis to get rid of international students and to destroy the education industry.
For anybody out there who might feel that they're missing out on a rental accommodation because an overseas student is taken, just know the Leader of the Opposition wants to make that situation worse.
And of course, these remarks only fired up the Greens Party to work with the Liberals to block the bill.
The most vile political opportunism from Labor, linking migration to the housing policy, linking foreign students to the housing crisis. Labor's revolting leap is even trying to out-Dutton Dutton.
Of course, the Labor Party is furious by this perceived betrayal of Peter Dutton, but Dutton saw the danger signs ahead, as did we. It is best not to antagonise one of Australia's largest economic money earners. And this week's Financial Review article says it all. Foreign students' row is political kryptonite. You bet your life it is. But that didn't stop Jason Clare going for broke. As the article reads, the mess in Australia's grand experiment in international education is another damaging example of long-term policy failure crashing into short-term fixes. And further on in the article, a bitter Education Minister, Jason Clare, is quoted after learning of Peter Dutton's reversal. You've got to ask Peter Dutton what the hell is going on in his head. Well, of course, there is a chance that Peter did watch that October news edition and thought, that's a good idea. But in reality, as the article, it sums it up perfectly. That's pretty obvious. There's not much interest in allowing Labor to claim any credit for anything. So in the end, we are still left with that dreadful student visa priority ministerial processing arrangement, Direction 107. In reality, that direction only disadvantages regional education institutions, which makes Labor look hypocritical. The sooner that direction is revoked and fades into memory, like the student visa cap legislation will, the better the whole country will be. Vital parts of the skills in demand visa requirements were not passed in the final Senate sitting this week. The Migration Amendment Strengthening Sponsorship and Nomination Processes Bill 2024 was not passed this year. Since this bill makes some critical amendments to the nomination process regarding the SID visa, we will be asking the Immigration Department this week to clarify whether the public can expect the SID visa will actually be implemented before the next election. Details for this 7th of November invitation round were released while I was on leave. As with all of these updates, I will leave a link in the description so you can find the full details yourself. Several construction trade workers such as carpenters, electricians, fibrous plasterers and plumbers general were invited. However, to build houses and apartments, you also need many solid plasterers, technical cable jointers, air conditioning and refrigeration mechanics, air conditioning and mechanical service plumbers, roof plumbers, drainers, gas fitters and locksmiths. None of these occupations can be found amongst the 15,000 invitations issued. At this rate, the government will need help sourcing the workforce to meet the country's housing needs. As we pointed out in our last news edition, not many trade workers are being sponsored through the 482 visa. Things are not looking promising for those looking for a Victoria State sponsorship nomination for the 491 and 190 visas. This week the government announced that for the remainder of this financial year, they will prioritise the following construction trade occupations. These occupations have not been added to their website explaining what target sectors the state is prioritising, so we can only assume that for now, these trade occupations have priority over the target sectors. We will ask that clarification from the Victorian Government and provide that in next week's edition. Of course, we assume that Victoria will continue its pledge to look after 500 international students who study in their state for the 491 visa. For Western Australia, it is clear from their recent invitation round data that very few construction trade workers were sponsored on the 22nd of November round. I could only see carpenters, tilers and painters on the list, which is not enough to build houses and apartments, as I mentioned before. That's not an encouraging sign for the WA housing sector. Many non-priority occupations were given invitations, which was great for them. For the Australian Capital Territory, a recent email from the Director of ACT Migration explained their invitation round strategy for the rest of this financial year. In the email she says, "You may notice smaller invitation round sizes for the first half of this financial year, which may have resulted in higher minimum scores for invitations in some occupation groups. The smaller sizes of the previous rounds were determined by operational requirements. Larger invitation rounds are expected throughout the rest of the financial year." The last invitation round of 2024 was conducted on the 26th of November, and the next round will be undertaken before the 14th of February 2025. Occupations related to critical services, including teaching, healthcare and social assistance, will remain high priorities. It's time again to visit processing times. Remember, we are only citing the median processing time of 50% of applications. For the 189 visa, it has dropped to 53 days. For the 190 visa, remains stable at a dismal 17 months. The 491 visa worsened to 17 months, and same for the 191 visa is now up to 8 months. The 887 visa has improved to 5 months, a major improvement for the 300 visa down to 8 months, a stable 10 months for the 820 visa, and 5 months for the 186 visa, which only highlights, there's the same for the 189 visa, that the priority occupations being granted quickly is not the reality for most people and skews the median processing time. Well, it's been a fascinating week full of surprises. Don't think just because Christmas is coming, nothing new happens. In fact, for some years, it's the busiest season for changes. Make sure you don't miss anything by subscribing to the channel.